Can't lose or gain weight? Today, we'll discuss the connection between your hormones and metabolism. You stick to diets, count everything carefully, go to the gym, but for some reason you still can't lose weight. Let's figure out why. Watch this video until the end, and I'll give you a list of tests that will help you understand what's causing the problem, why you can't lose or gain weight. I often hear people say, I'm overweight because of a slow metabolism, or I'm overweight because my thyroid isn't working properly. I can't gain muscle mass because I have low testosterone. There are countless variations. In reality, when you start to really look into this, you realize that endocrinology, our hormonal system, is just the tip of the iceberg, and it very rarely breaks down as the root cause. Very often, the hormonal system breaks down as a consequence. In fact, there are countless root causes. Let's figure them out together. First point, as I often say in my videos, all roads lead to the gastrointestinal tract. And here, as always, it's the same story. Because if we have any issues related to the gastrointestinal tract, such as bile stasis, maybe decreased activity of the pancreas, reduced stomach function, or damage to the mucous membrane somewhere, all of this leads to less effective digestion, and as a result, poorer absorption, and of course, utilization of all the food we consume. First and foremost, of course, is protein. If we don't get enough protein, our metabolism will slow down. If on top of that you also have some additional inflammation or something else going on, that protein will be actively used up for that, and as a result, you might be counting everything, doing everything right, but your body still isn't getting enough protein. Consequently, it thinks you're in a concentration camp and will start gaining weight out of thin air.
Now all the doctors and nutritionists are shouting about protein deficiency. Where did this sudden hype come from?
It's not sudden. It's just basic simple math, unfortunately. If we sit in an office and do nothing, and at the same time we don't have any inflammation, we get sick twice a year as usual. That's how it should be, and so on. Indeed, 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is enough. But when you start talking and actually counting, it turns out that very few people even eat 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. I weigh almost 110 kilograms. 110 grams of pure protein is half a kilo of chicken. Do I eat half a kilo of chicken? I do, but I don't need just 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. I need 2 or even 2.5 grams per kilogram, because besides the office, work, and everything else, I also have 10 workouts a week, a constant amount of stress, viruses are always trying to attack me so I don't get sick, and so on. And here, when you start calculating all of this, it turns out that the average person, especially someone who has gone through our pandemic, because now more and more studies are coming out proving that this virus doesn't leave our bodies, it continues to cause chronic inflammation, which leads to a constant drain on resources. Well, we realize that our debits and credits just don't add up. We eat one thing, we don't have time for a proper lunch, we're always grabbing something tasty, something sweet, just to eat quickly, just to get by somehow. But overall, there just aren't enough resources. So what does the body start to do? First and foremost, it begins to break down muscle. When the muscles are depleted, it stops nourishing the skin, hair, and nails. The skin, hair, and nails deteriorate. Women are unhappy. And why is that? Because all of it goes to support something else, either the immune system or liver function or something else entirely. And this is where you need to dig deeper. In reality, everyone is under-eating, except for those who keep track and count. If you've just realized that you're not getting enough protein either, give this video a like. The second serious reason for your body's malfunction could be hypoxia, a lack of oxygen. All our cells need oxygen, especially the brain. It becomes very anxious and sluggish if it doesn't get enough oxygen. There are several reasons why hypoxia can occur. The first is impaired iron metabolism. For women, this is often due to iron deficiency because the menstrual cycle is a fact of life. For men, it's usually a dysfunction that occurs against the background of inflammation. Because when there is some kind of chronic inflammation, iron can bind within the body, and as a result, it doesn't function properly. The second factor is impaired function or deficiency of B vitamins, since B vitamins do not accumulate in the body in sufficient amounts. They are used up very actively for detoxification, removing all toxins, coping with stress, and many other processes. That's why we need to regularly replenish them. This is protein metabolism, which we've already talked about. We understand that almost everyone lacks the resources, the building material, protein, and something needs to be done about it. And the fourth point is, of course, the function of our main organ, our factory, the liver, where everything comes together, where protein is metabolized and functions, where iron reacts with protein and is transported, utilized, or other processes occur. If our liver is unable to perform its protein synthetic function, you won't be able to grow. If our liver is unable to maintain a sufficient level of metabolism, you won't be able to lose weight. Why? Again, there are a great many reasons. We should also touch on the situation related to prolactin. Prolactin is a stress hormone that can increase for 4 main reasons. The first is chronic stress. When stress keeps increasing and increasing, our body stops coping with it, and prolactin levels rise. Since prolactin is an antagonist to dopamine, the higher the prolactin, the lower the dopamine. As a result, our body goes into a kind of hibernation, metabolism slows down, and we no longer need anything. The second reason is taking antidepressants. Since antidepressants interfere with the work of neurotransmitters, prolactin also tends to increase. The third reason is breastfeeding. And the fourth reason is, of course, a prolactinoma, a benign growth in the brain that can also stimulate prolactin production. But that's a completely separate topic because the numbers there will be entirely different. If your prolactin is more than 1.5 times above the reference range, go see a doctor immediately. When you get your test results, you see the numbers, you see the range from minimum to maximum where all these values should fall. And you often think that if they fall within these values, then everything is fine. Unfortunately, I have to disappoint you because reference values are just an average, like the average temperature in a hospital. In reality, each indicator has its own optimal values where an organ, a system of organs, or our whole body will function most efficiently and effectively. Our goal is to ensure that each indicator is within this optimal range, because that's where things will be much better. That's exactly why I created a course where my students can figure out these wonderful numbers for themselves, understand what they mean, and where they should be in order to eliminate all their deficiencies and, of course, improve their quality of life. I'll leave a link to my course in the description. I'd like to carefully touch on a topic that's probably considered taboo, or however you want to call it. It's parasites. Very often, again, patients come in and say, I have parasites. I was treated here, I was treated there, I had high titers here. I say, okay, fine. Let's say you treated the test results. I ask, what symptoms did you have? What did you experience during the treatment? What changed after the treatment? And unfortunately, 80% of all these people say that they had nothing. Nothing bothered them, and after the treatment, nothing bothers them either. In other words, yes, we fixed the numbers on paper, but nothing changed in terms of how they felt. All of us have someone like that. Please don't start imagining huge dinosaurs right now. We're not talking about big parasites here. Very often parasites can be the size of a cell or something like that. All of us have them. The only question is how our immune system interacts with them. If we coexist peacefully with them and there are no symptoms that might point to their presence, if our immune system is functioning normally, there's no need to start a war, because whether we'll win or not is an open question. Of course, it's clear that we will win. But how much time, resources, health, and so on it will take us, that's a very open question. I'd also like to touch on our eternal problem, stress. What's the issue? When we're under chronic stress, our adrenal glands start to become depleted. After the adrenal glands, our thyroid gland also starts to suffer because, for example, they both use the same building block for hormone synthesis, the amino acid tyrosine. If our thyroid gland starts to slow down, our metabolism slows down as well. All our metabolic processes begin to work sluggishly, and as a result, we can once again start to swell up from hunger. And on top of all this, very often girls make the mistake of cutting calories even further. But it just doesn't work. We only make the situation worse, increase the stress on the body even more, slow down the metabolism further, and unfortunately, this leads to nothing good. What is your problem? Is it that you can't gain weight or that you can't lose weight? Share your stories in the comments. Here is a list of tests that will help us figure everything out. This, of course, includes a complete blood count with leukocyte formula and ESR. There's also a general biochemistry panel, which will show us how your liver is functioning, as well as your protein, fat, and carbohydrate metabolism. Naturally, it also includes iron metabolism tests, ferritin, transferrin, and total iron binding capacity. This also involves assessing thyroid function. But please, not just TSH and T4 as is usually done in clinics, but TSH, free T4, free T3, anti-TPO antibodies, and anti-TG antibodies. That way, together, we can comprehensively assess how your thyroid is functioning and what needs to be done about it. And of course, prolactin as well. Why aren't we going to test hormones related to reproductive health right now? For women, you need to consider the menstrual cycle. For men, you need to assess testosterone. Because, as I mentioned at the very beginning, all of this is a consequence of what's happening. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any more useful videos about your health.